Hello everyone, it's Mr. Wolf here, and in this video I'm going to be introducing analyzing data, particularly constructing a graph electronically. Right? And so the same success criteria for a normal graph still applies, making sure you choose the correct type of graph, axes on the correct labels, that it's scale and plotted accurately, and that you have your axes labeled, you have the correct units, you have a title that's well formatted. All right. So if I'm making a graph electronically, all right, what I could do is, for the most part, the nice thing about it is it allows you to really just select the data you want, click insert, and make that chart. All right. So you might be wondering, well, why do I need to know how to draw or make a graph in the first place on paper? And the reason being is when you click create chart, it's not always going to be the correct chart. You still have to choose the correct type of graph. You have to make edits here and there. So even though making a chart electronically is easier, all right, in terms of like it's just faster, you also need to know how to construct a graph beforehand as well in order to do that well. All right, so if I was making a graph electronically, I could go to just Google Drive, open up a Google Sheet. I can name it Sample Google Sheet. This is a Google Sheet that I had from a previous video on making a data table. It was on the effect of light on beans jumping, those beans that just seem to kind of jump on their own. And we had two different conditions, light and dark. All right, made different trials and the average right here. All right, so like I said, maybe what we could do is just select the data table, click insert, chart. All right. And I could also select what type of graph I want by clicking on, maybe I want a line graph, maybe I want, a pie chart. But then I have to ask, well, what are my independent variables? It's light and dark. Those are two distinct categories, right? So light and dark, even though there could, I guess, be a spectrum in between, right? In this experiment, it's just the light category and the dark category. There's no in between. So I have categories. And when we have categories, we're going to have a bar graph, not a combo chart. A bar graph. All right. So, and notice that it even labels some stuff for me too, but nothing's labeled right here. So again, that's why we need to know what a graph should look like, because I would need to go in and edit it. But I don't need to do that just yet, because if we look at this graph just as a whole, it's messy. It graphs trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, and the average. And when I look at this graph, there's just a lot going on. It's hard to see if there's a difference between the light and the dark condition. So this isn't the best graph as the way it is. I don't really want to graph the trials. You want to collect multiple trials because that gives you precise data. But then once we've collected those trials, we really care about the average after that. So I really just want to graph the average. So I'm going to go ahead and click delete right here. Right? And we don't care about these trials right here. All right, now there's multiple ways to go about doing this. You could kind of select different parts of it and everything. But I find the easiest way, right, is to just make a new table. So I'm going to click on, I'm going to write down, I'm just going to go a little bit further down, write environment. That's my independent variable. And then my dependent variable is the number of jumps in 20 seconds. All right. Ooh, notice that this is just does not look good right here. Sometimes that happens. So if that's the case, I'm going to highlight, I could highlight the whole area if I wanted, or I could highlight the area I know is just going to be part of my data table. And I'm going to go up here, click format, text wrapping, and I'm going to, instead of overflow, I'm going to click wrap. All right, so notice that fits everything in real nicely. It pushes it down. Perfect. So now for my independent variable, I have two different types of environment from this data table, the light condition and the dark condition. And and notice all I did was just highlight, copy, right, and then paste right here. Right? You could write it down, but it's easier to just copy and paste. So maybe I do the same thing with the average right here. All right. Ooh. For the average number of jumps. The reason I said ooh is because notice it says number of jumps in 20 seconds. Technically, I am graphing the average number of jumps. Just a little bit more precision to put in my graph. All right. So I'm going to click on here for the average, copy, go over here, paste. But then it gives me this like hashtag reference. It's an error. Why is that? Well, because this average, if we look up here, is actually calculating what's in these boxes to come up with that average. And there's just nothing here for that, so the computer program doesn't know what to do. So what I'll have to do is just type this in manually. So 5.33 and then 6 were my numbers. All right. So it's a little bit more work, but it's not too bad. All right. Now, not everything is kind of well bordered right here. I could fix that if I wanted by going up here to borders, but the purpose of this is not to present. All right. This is for presentation. This is just to help me make my graph. So I'm going to highlight this area right here. All right, along with my labels, and I'm going to click on Insert Chart, right, and it's going to give me a graph. All right, like I said, I could go up here to the chart type and click on a pie chart, a line graph. There's a bunch of different options you have, but we know that it should be a bar graph. Now, the nice thing here is that my axes, that's the independent variable, should usually be on the x-axis. Looks like we have that here, light and dark, and it's already labeled with the general category right here, environment. So that's the nice thing about being able to just highlight your table. And then my dependent variable is labeled too. I have a title. It just took the dependent variable, all right, versus my independent variable. So average numbers of jumps versus the environment. It's not the best title. Like, you don't really read that title and know exactly what was being studied here. So I think the best thing to do is just have the title we had before. So I'm going to click on the effect of light on beans jumping, click copy, go over here. I'm going to double click until I'm able to edit it right here, and click paste. Perfect. All right. So for the most part, I'm done with my graph, but this is really hard to look at. Like, I have to really squint to see what my dependent variable is saying. So what I could do is I could click on my graph, and if I double click it, I'm going to click X here. If I just click it once, it just highlights it. If I double click it, you'll see this bar that comes up to the right we've seen before. So I'm just going to actually move this over to the side, all right, right here. So it's just it's easier for you to see the whole thing, all right? And I could click on, I'm going to click on this first, average number of jumps in 20 seconds. All right, I could actually change this. Maybe I wanted to, instead of saying seconds with a plural, I go in here and edit it. I could do that if I wanted to. I could also go to the side here and change the font. It goes automatically to auto, but maybe I make it 18. Maybe let's do 16. All right, because notice it wasn't fitting there before. All right, I could even change the size of my numbers if I wanted to, make them larger if I wanted to. To tell you the truth, I thought they were fine as is. So I'm just going to click on Control Z. I'm going to double click on this again, and let's click on the environment right here. And let's see, auto, I'm going to make this a font of 16, and then my light and dark, I'll make that a font of 16 as well. Again, you could make it, but you're going to want to make it the font that you think is going to just be able for your reader to be able to see your graph well. All right, so now I have a graph titled the effect of beans on jumping, dependent variable column labeled, independent variable column labeled, and then from this graph I could see that the difference in jumps isn't a whole lot right here, it seems visually. Again, we could see that from the data table, but the graph's just another tool that allows you to see that more clearly, and in some cases to see patterns that you wouldn't necessarily be able to see in your data table. Right? So the nice thing about doing these graphs electronically is they go faster once you know how to correctly make a graph, and they allow you to do some other cool things in terms of understanding your data as well with the other tools you have that we're just not going to get into in this video right now. Thanks for watching, everyone.